Hi, my name's Catherine Rose. I've been very privileged to be one of the provocateurs for Audiences Yorkshire, and I've written a paper called Everyone an Archduke, which you can find on their website. I'm not going to read that out now. I'm just going to touch on a few points that came out of that and out of the discussions we've been having. I was looking at how the audience, as we seek to engage them more and more, are actually going to become more powerful. That's why I've called them the Archdukes. They're going to be in charge. I think the way the Arts Council is looking at public engagement also underlines this. We need to find a way of engaging audiences, but without losing track of the great art that we're trying to produce and look after and show and make accessible. I think we need to look at the term relevance really closely. It's a term that Arts Council's using, but I think we all use it all the time. Is this art relevant to me? What does that mean? Does it mean, is it about me? Does it strike a chord with me? Is it something that might change my life? And also, how do I know? I think relevant could mean something different to every single one of us. That's a problem because we tend to think in segments and groups and hoping that this audience will go to this particular type of art form. I think we need to look more at continuums. We can't cut off classical music from the music that's being made now by young people on YouTube. It's actually all part of one thing. It's the same energy being directed towards creative endeavour. I don't think we can say that any particular art form is particularly great. There's quite a lot of rubbish classical music out there, and there's some really fantastic hip-hop. I think we need to change how we talk about art. If we're saying great art, that art can come from any form and from any person who is actually keen to produce it. I think we need to be a bit careful about how we talk about new technology. It's not going to replace what we have already. Again, it's a continuum. When the Arts Council threatened to close quite a lot of venues because of their funding review, people were up in arms. They didn't want their local theatre to close. And I think that we can actually look at the continuum from live art through to virtual art and treat it as something that we can all enjoy and all engage in. One of my great worries is the involvement of politicians in art. This is partly because I've met a lot of politicians just recently and I've been interviewing them. They're very intelligent people. A lot of them really love art. They love different art forms. They engage in them. They're musicians. They perhaps do photography. They attend theatre all the time. I'm not disputing that. What I'm disputing is that they know much about the way the art world works, about how the arts are actually brought to the public. I think politicians want to use the arts partly to please the public as a vote winner. I think that they want to appear to be better able to get good value out of the arts than the opposition party can, whether it's through social engineering, instrumental use of the arts, or perhaps through getting more private money into the arts, and therefore we get the same value without spending so much money. I think also that politicians want to get their hands on the economic potential of the creative industries in a way that they haven't really bothered to do before. That's difficult because of the political system. A lot of the responsibility for arts and creative industries has been devolved to the four nations of the UK, and therefore central government can't actually work directly with them without a lot of negotiation. The power that the arts has is actually increased currently, politically speaking, but actually our ability to retain control over what we do and not to fall victim, as it were, to somebody else's agenda is very important. I think we need to be able to welcome the new. We need to be able to exploit the new power of the arts, but not to lose track of what we're trying to do or allow anybody else to subsume our agenda with their agenda. My feeling is we're actually at a level now that we can really reassess what we do. I'd like to repeat that word continuum, But I'd also like to just throw in a few more phrases. We used to talk about the museum culture, particularly in music, that all we ever played was dead white composers. That's not true anymore, and I don't think we can use the phrase museum culture when you look at what museums have become. I'm sitting in a museum now in Sheffield that's clearly an absolutely magnificent modern institution. I think we need to redefine ourselves in the light of the achievements of the last 10 years or 20 years. I think we need to say, if this is the museum culture, that's a good thing because museums are such dynamic places. I also think we're at a point where we can redefine what we're doing. We can talk about it in a new way. We don't have to put ourselves in the old boxes and the old silos that we used to be in. It's a very exciting time, and I think we should seize the day.
Northern Ballet Theatre's had a long-standing relationship with Audiences Yorkshire over a number of years, but it's mostly been very much marketing-led. But we did do one project with them through Maximise, which was an Arts Council-funded initiative to develop work by black and minority ethnic artists and audience and develop audiences in the mainstream. And this was something that we really wanted to engage with, as at the moment we do tend to attract a very white and middle class audience. So it was about a way of developing that audience, but maybe through the art rather than just through audience development initiatives. So with Audiences Yorkshire, we came up with the plan of working with some writers to develop a new story for ballet, but writers from the black and minority ethnic backgrounds. And we wanted to look at the idea of diverse programming, and because Northern Ballet Theatre is very much story-based ballet, a really good idea of this was to come up with an original story that's maybe outside the Western European canon, which is where most of our work tends to come from. So once we worked with Audiences Yorkshire to find writers that might be interested in the project, and then developed a brief which was to run 2 creative labs with David Nixon, Northern Ballet Theatre's artistic director, and Patricia Doyle, who's an associate artist with Northern Ballet Theatre. She works a lot with us as a dramaturg to develop stories and kind of translate stories into dance. We eventually found 3 writers who were interested in the project, and the 2 creative labs took place in autumn 2006 and spring 2007. And really they were about exchanging ideas. They talked a lot about ways of working, how they developed stories in the start, because each of the writers worked in a very different way. Whether or not you could work collaboratively to tell a story, and how that might work. And it was also just a chance to exchange ideas about themes that might work for a story. I know they talked a lot about identity. They talked about the idea of terrorism, which is obviously an issue that at the time was a real hot topic. I think the theme that they eventually came down to was love, which is great for ballet because a lot of ballet is about love, but it's also a very, very universal theme and can be appreciated by everybody. So the labs were just a really great kind of creative exchange, a great professional development for all involved. It was also great internally for MBT to have the artistic department and the marketing department and the learning and access department all working together on a project in a very collaborative way, rather than it being led by a particular person, and to have the artistic director involved in what will probably eventually become an audience development project was also a really positive thing internally that happened for us. The project's still ongoing, although Audiences Yorkshire's involvement has now finished. We held another workshop in spring 2008 where we moved things on a little bit further, and the eventual plan is for some piece that's grown out of this project to be performed in our new building, which will open in 2010 with it has a studio theatre, which gives us a chance to kind of develop this sort of work and develop a new audience alongside it. Anything else?